Hey guys, back again. I just got out of John Wick 2, and this is one of those sequels that I will say is just as good as the first one. I think that this one is so good in how the first film was a breath of fresh air for action movies for me, I think, because they really established this world in the first one and really elaborated on what this character, what would happen to him and why he is in this world, and how these people went and murdered his dog and took his car, and he took the whole movie trying to kill all these people because of it. But I thought that the action in that was so great in the first one, and the world building was so great. And this one is no exception either. This one is just as great, in my opinion, with how they built the world up and established what the world was, and how they have this kind of group of assassins who all go to this one area, this hotel, and it's really cool how they elaborate on that one as well as they did in the first one with the hotel. And I thought that this one was just as great with the action and world building, and just showing more of the hotel and showing more of that, but also it's like the first one doesn't have a giant story, so I'm not gonna point out a negative for that for this one, because that to me is the thing that I didn't care as much for with both of these films. And I feel like that shouldn't even be a negative, because this is just an action movie. It doesn't have to have a big plot. It's not supposed to have a plot like that. It's just supposed to be a fun time, and I thought this one was just as fun as the last one. The character John Wick, Keanu Reeves, again, was such a badass character, like how he played this character. And I love too that he's one of those action stars, like in action characters, the John Wick character, and how he can get hurt and get damaged. He's not invincible. He has things that can help him out, but he can be injured too as well. Like in this movie, he gets stabbed, he gets kicked, he gets thrown into stuff. And there's a lot of times where you can really feel the vulnerability of this character and that he's human. Even though, of course, this is an action movie, and action movies always typically are a little unrealistic, but this one tried to be close to it, and I thought that they did a great job, like the last one with this. And Keanu Reeves, just, again, was such a badass. And this one, like I said, the story is not big like the first one. It's just about how John Wick is retired, and this man named Antonio, who he owes a debt to, John Wick denies him, but Antonio then is trying to kill him and put him on a death threat, just have it to where every assassin will go and kill him for a ransom. And I really thought that was cool in upping the stakes for this character, because in the last one it was about him trying to kill the people responsible for murdering his puppy and taking his car. And I liked how in this one he's just dragged into it again, but I thought it was cool in how this guy he knew before he owed a debt to, and he denied it, so it completely resulted in another movie with him killing a lot of people. And it was a really fun time, like the first one. And I thought the acting was great. I thought that the establishing more of the hotel was great. I thought that the action was great too, and how it just kept being so, well, I don't want to say completely different, because action movies usually have these kinds of things in every action movie, like driving in cars getting wrecked, stabbing people, shooting people, like stuff like that. But I really liked just how fun it was. It was just a fun time, like the first one. And then you get to the ending, which I thought was a really cool place to end the movie, with the final fight area, where there's this weird area where it's like a funhouse mirrors kind of thing, where every direction John Wick is and running around, there's mirrors everywhere. So it's so hard to tell where he is and where the people are trying to kill him are too. And I thought that was great. I thought that really brought some tension to the end. And And these are movies that you know what the end will be. You know that John Wick will get away and he'll be a badass and kill um, the person he's trying to get, but and he does. But I like too how, like I said, the ending with the final battle in the funhouse mirrors kind of area. But I also like too that in the end he's in the hotel and he shoots Antonio, which is the worst thing you could do in this hotel that assassins go and stay in. And Winston, who is the guy who owns it and controls it, literally only gives John Wick an hour at the end of the movie, and John Wick runs away, and he's not allowed to be part of these assassins anymore, and now the ransom's brought out again. So now that means that he is going to be chased by every assassin again at the end, and that's where the movie ends. And I thought that that was a good way to bring out another sequel, and I think that since they did such a good job with these first two, I think that they will do a good job with the next one. And I would say that I do like it a lot. I do like it, but I don't think it's on the level where I love it and I will rewatch it again and again, just like the first one. But I think that this is a strong action movie. It is very good with the action. The story is minimal. It's not very big because that's not what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an action movie. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's not a movie that I love, but I do like it. I do like it a lot. I think it is a fun, great action movie. It just didn't have that much character to it. And for me, with movies, I want to see more character building. But these are supposed to be simple stories, and they are. It's pretty simple. But overall, I thought that it was fun, and I really did like it a lot. I also like that Lawrence Fishburne was in this movie because it's funny that I think they haven't worked together, him and Keanu Reeves, since the Matrix trilogy. And say what we will about Matrix 2 and 3, but this is the first sequel after those, and I like this movie way better than Matrix 2 and 3, I think. From what I remember, I haven't watched the Matrix movies in a long time. But from what I remember, I didn't like Matrix 2 and 3 that much. I like 2 more, but I think I like John Wick 2 more than those sequels combined, I think. But I thought that was funny he was back in this movie and they both were together in the movie. I thought that was a funny thing just to have. It was kind of like an in-joke, I thought. But I also like how the movie is funny, too. The movie has subtle humor, and it's humor to where it's not over the top, like, say, Commando, like a movie like that, where it's so unrealistic. But to a degree, action movies are never always super realistic, but this one tried to be, I think, really tried to be like that. But the jokes didn't make it feel over the top like, say, in Commando, which I do like Commando a lot, but I think that the jokes in this were very good they were subtle in which they didn't completely overtake the seriousness and the grittiness of it. And they didn't make it over the top. They gave you a good stress reliever throughout, and I thought that was a good way to give your emotions a hold for a second and keep you in suspense, but also give you a breath of relief. And I love when action movies do that, because sometimes there are moments where it is so intense and so scary, and you gotta hold off for a minute and think, and like contain yourself and figure out like just calm yourself down from the situation in the movie. But I liked how in this one there were a lot of jokes that were subtle, like whenever John Wick kills the character played by Common, and he repeats what Common said to him earlier, but it was funny just because he repeated the same line that he said earlier. But jokes like that I think are great because they're subtle in this, and it doesn't ruin the moment. It doesn't make it over the top. It still keeps the serious tone, but it is still really fun, and it's the jokes that don't ruin the tone. I think that's great. I think the tone is good in this, by all accounts. And I think that, like I said, all the characters are fun characters. They're not complex, but they're fun. But that's not what this is supposed to be. It's just an action movie. But for what it is, I think it is a really fun action movie. It is a fun one, a fun watch. And like I said, I don't think it's one that I will rewatch over and over, but it's one that I think is one of the way better action movies like that have came out in the past couple of years, and action sequel too. It's very good at being a sequel that is so close to the original but so different, in which it gives you the same beats, but it still gives you some new action sequences and new intense moments and some good humor, and it gives you not the exact same thing. Like I said, the first film was him trying to kill these people because they killed his puppy and took his car. And at the beginning of the movie, he takes his Mustang, which I thought was great. He takes that back, and then John Leguizamo's character tells him that'll fix it, but it'll take a while because whenever John Wick leaves, everybody tries to attack him. And that was a great scene where like he was driving in his Mustang, and then he kept hitting all the cars trying to get him. And by the end, it was funny because you see him slowly driving up to his house, and he can't drive any faster because the motor's almost falling out of his car. And it just was funny how subtle that was. That was great subtlety in the movie. Like, great humor with that. I loved the humor in this. But yeah, overall, I'd say it was a really fun time. But for me, action movies I really do like, but I don't love them. I love movies more with character studies or focus more on characters. But this one, for an action movie, is really great. It's a really great one. A great sequel, so good when compared to the first one. To me, I think it is just as great as the first one. And for me personally, it's not one that I'll rewatch a lot like the first one, but I think that it's still a worthy action movie that, and a sequel. It's a worthy sequel that really lives up to the first one, and maybe even more, because I haven't watched the first one in a while. So if I rewatch the first one, I might think that I don't know which one I like more, this one or the first one, but who knows. But overall, right now, my opinion is that this was a really great action movie. It is one of the best ones I've seen in a while, and it deserves to be praised. It's really, really good. But thanks guys for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.